If you have a true scary story you want to send in, just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And as always, thank you. This started a few years back. I've been out of school for about 20 years now. I went through my yearbook flipping the pages. I found this girl who I barely remember at all. She was someone that nobody really knew much of. She had her group of friends, but was a bookworm and on the honor society, and was like over an A+ student. Although half Thai, she has a very Italian name, her father being Italian. Anyway, let me cut to the chase. When I saw her in the yearbook, I had these memories flood back to me. Us dating in high school, us dating on the down low because her parents wanted her to focus on school. I have memories of her parents finding out about us, and letting us date, but soon after having her break up with me because her grades were swaying because she was in love with me, and I was in love with her. I have memories of us going on dates, to the mall, to hang out on Fridays, sneaking her over to my house and watching movies. All these memories that never happened. These memories happened the first time, as I said, a few years ago. I chalked it up as a wild imagination, but this wasn't a fantasy. I looked her up on Facebook and other social medias, and she's got a Facebook, but it hasn't been active since 2020. This always stuck with me until recent. And just the other day, I saw her picture again, because my cousin asked if I went to school with his boss. I showed him a picture, and the last name, starting with M, was in the same row of this girl. Those memories flooded back in again, so strongly that I closed my eyes and shook my head, almost feeling like I was in some warp. My cousin even asked if I was okay, and I said I had deja vu. These memories were even stronger than before. Memories of being intimate. Of our first kiss. I swear that I was with this girl because I can even remember gifts that she's given me from the past. I don't have them because they've been lost in time, I feel. For a couple of days, I almost felt like I had a mini breakdown because I can't explain this or tell anyone else. Even writing this makes me teary-eyed of a love and a heartbreak that I once had, that I feel really happened but didn't in this timeline. I'm happily married, and I've never said anything to my wife because I think she would think I'm crazy. I've never been diagnosed with any mental disorders before. I'm not looking to get trolled, but I have no explanation for any of this. It keeps eating away at me, and I don't know what to do. The OP then added an update. Personally, I do believe in parallel dimensions. I've always been sensitive to the spirit world because I had a near-death experience when I was 3, and almost died due to an infection in my ear. I've had an experience before the Mandela effect was even coined, this other experience happening in 2005. Anyway, as I said, if you want me to get into more detail, I'd love to. As of now, I've been trying to put all that I've felt this last week behind me. I found a lot of support from the people on Reddit, and also praying to the Almighty, but these things behind me. I strongly believe there was a connection to me and this girl. When this whole thing hit me, Wednesday, April 10th, I couldn't get past the thought of something that I had and lost, and the love and the heartbreak that I had. I couldn't reach out to any of my friends or fam because, again, they would think I was nuts. As mentioned, I almost felt like I was having a mini breakdown by Friday. I am happily married and I haven't told my wife this, nor do I plan to because she wouldn't understand. I found her on Facebook and LinkedIn, but will not reach out at all. Every day is getting easier, but these memories are seared into my mind. The only thing I can think to compare this to, remember the first time you went to the ocean. If you've never been to the ocean, then think of something that changed your life that you'll never forget. This is just like that. These aren't fantasies. These aren't things that I just thought of one day. These hit me like a freight train, and I've never experienced anything like this before. This happened to me as a kid. My memory of it is quite vivid, and I've never been able to explain it. I was attending a friend's 9th birthday party. One of the events was a scavenger hunt, where we were supposed to go out into the neighborhood to seek out various items. Although I'd visited my friend's house before, I somehow got turned around and found myself in a totally unfamiliar surrounding. What made this very strange was that even the environment didn't match his neighborhood. The style of houses and even the natural terrain was different. I was getting scared, and I noticed a man working on his car in his garage. I cautiously approached him, and I asked him if he could tell me how to get back to my friend's house, and I gave him the address. He gave me a strange look, and said that he had never even heard of that street, which struck me as impossible. I hadn't gone that far. Then he told me to get off of his property. I left and did my level best to retrace my steps. I was increasingly scared, but somehow, and I really don't know how, I soon found myself within sight of my friend's backyard. I returned to his house and the party resumed. No one seemed to think that I'd gone missing or even been gone for an unusual period of time, and I didn't say anything about what happened because I didn't want to be teased for getting lost within supposedly less than a block from my friend's house. But I still maintain that where I found myself absolutely did not line up appearance-wise in any sense with that entire area. Was I briefly, unknowingly transported to an alternate universe? To another part of the country? I don't know. I realize the story may not be as terrifying or weird as some, but when you're an 8-year-old kid and something like this happens to you, it is plenty scary. I consider this a parallel universe glitch. Let me start by saying that I love your channel. Your narration style is awesome. Thank you. Here's a little about me. I'm a blind woman in my mid-30s. I've had several near-death experiences, visions, and dreams about key people in our news. And those things have come true. I don't consider myself a prophet or a psychic. I'm just someone who God has picked to tell people the things I've seen along the way. Complicated, I know. I've told people about them. Some believe me, some don't. And I never see in my normal dreams. But during my experiences in this glitch, I could see perfectly. But anyways, back to the glitch. It was after a rough weekend of family drama, so I was just ready for a peaceful night's sleep. But I got much more than I bargained for. As soon as I closed my eyes, I woke back up. But I wasn't in my room. I was in a living room just like mine, but I knew it wasn't mine. I could hear lively voices coming from the kitchen. One of them sounded just like myself. The other belonging to an acquaintance that I knew from college. We had dated a couple of times, but neither one of us felt any chemistry. So we just agreed to stay friends. But in this reality, the other me was with him. I could see them hugging and touching each other, which made this super awkward because I knew I was in her space. On the counter, though, was a McDonald's bag with 2 coffee drinks beside it. I could tell her to tell him to make sure that she didn't get his black coffee this time, and that caramel cinnamon roll was the best flavor on the planet. I know for a fact that our McDonald's does not have that flavor, which sounds like they should, actually. I sat there for a few minutes as they ate and planned out their day. She talked about how grateful she was that now we have a garage instead of that nasty carport. Well, there's one difference between our houses, I thought. But I must have stared too long because he shouted, "You're beside me, baby. But there's another you on the couch. Who is that?" "Man, you cappin', you sure you didn't get high with that dude down the street?" She laughed. "No, baby, I'm serious. Something isn't right here. She looks just like you. Get up, and if I tell you to go outside, go," he cried. Well, that was my cue. I moved as fast as I could out of that living room, but I couldn't run out the door. Her front door was just like mine. Heavy oak and makes a lot of noise when you open it. Plus, they were right in the kitchen beside the back door, but running towards me. So the only place I had to go was upstairs. I know, not the best choice, right? But it was either that or the basement, if this house had one. But I found a hiding spot in one of the closets and stayed there as they were calling my name. I was shaking and sweating at this point, worried at what other me might do if she found me. Anyone remember the show Fringe? Yeah. It's so creepy to hear your own voice call out your name in another room. I stayed quiet until I heard him tell her to get in the car. He said that he didn't know what to do, and the cops wouldn't believe him, and their pastor didn't believe in parallel realities. She just told him to chill. They argued for a minute, but I heard them open up the back door, crank up the car, and drive away. I sat there wondering if this was some lucid dream, but I'm not gonna lie, I checked out her clothes. Nice, but edgier than mine. The house? Identical except for the garage and possibly the basement. I slowly made my way downstairs and decided to curl up on the couch. I shut my eyes and prayed that I could escape back to my bedroom, and I did just that, right as they were pulling back into the garage, bumping a song that I guess all of us liked. I was fully awake now and home sweet home too, all the while feeling scared yet peaceful. Because other me seemed to have a nice life, people who care about her, and I just hope that she hasn't had to deal with the identical dysfunction and health issues I've had over the years. And yes, before you ask, other me is blind too. He was able to see me, but she could not. I hope this didn't shake her world up too badly either. I began to just call this a strange dream. That is, until I felt a piece of paper stuck to my foot. I took it to my parents and they told me exactly what it was. It was the McDonald's receipt, with caramel cinnamon roll coffee and all. I guess it fell out of someone's pocket during the chase. They asked me where it came from, and I just told them that I had no idea. I've told them about my other experiences, but this, I just couldn't. So, I took the receipt from them and I keep it in a box with special items. This was extraordinary. Maybe I'll submit some of my other stories, but until next time, I hope everyone enjoys this. And keep having that zest for life, other me. This happened to me when I was in college. I woke around 7:15 a.m. like I usually did, and walked across the room to turn off my alarm. I headed into the bathroom and then back to my room to get dressed. I then sat at my desk to print something out. The time was now 7:25. A friend of mine I usually had breakfast with would call me if I wasn't at the dining hall shortly before they opened the door at 7:30. I figured that she was running late. As I walked out the door, I noticed the angles of the hallway appeared to be off, as if the dimensions didn't quite make sense. I didn't think much of it as I locked the door and headed out the front door. When I got outside, the colors of everything, in addition to the lighting, seemed off. It's hard to explain, but it had a weird aura, and I got a sense that it wasn't right. As I entered the dining hall, I picked up a copy of USA Today, and I noticed my friend wasn't there, and the door to the dining hall wasn't open. I checked my watch, and it was just after 7:30. This sometimes happened. The door wouldn't be open. Just after the door opened and I was about to greet the person, I felt this forceful push, and this evil presence as if to say, "You don't belong here." Next thing I know, I'm sitting on my chair in my room and my friend calls me, wondering where I am. I checked the time and it was 7:30. I answered and told her I'd be a few minutes late and to just head in. I also realized I had no papers due that day. To this day, I have never been able to explain what transpired. Did I enter another universe temporarily? For the last several months, I've struggled with really bad insomnia due to health issues that I have. Many nights, I'm up all night and then finally doze off for about an hour in the early morning after my fiancé's first alarm goes off for work, around 5 a.m. He sets several, so I usually fall asleep after the first one and wake up for the day with the last alarm around 6 or 6:30. I'm not sure why I doze off around that time most days, but I always have dreams during that period that feel like they last for a very long time. Like weeks, even though I'm never asleep for more than an hour max during them. Now here's the strange part. For the last several weeks, I have noticed that in those dreams, I am always in the same place/reality. They take place in a world that looks similar to ours, but it's a location that I've never been to. Often, people that I know in real life will appear in these dreams, but it's like we're all living an alternate life. In the dreams, we live in a different place, in a specific apartment that I remember visiting before in a past dream, but 100% have never seen in real life. However, my fiancé has the same job as in real life. The dreams have details that are kind of similar to what happens in our regular lives, but things are slightly different. And some circumstances or details aren't the same. For instance, my mom lives all the way across the country in real life, but in my dreams, she somehow lives nearby. It feels like in the dream, a lot of things are exactly the opposite of the way things usually are. In the dreams, it's like the world is, I don't know, smaller somehow. It's like the whole world can be summed up in a small area where things take place, and nothing outside of that exists. It really does feel similar to a simulation or something. This whole scenario is so strange because ever since I was a little girl, I have always had my dreams take place in the home I'm living in at the time, and they revolved closely around whatever was going on in my life right then. This is the first time that I feel like my dreams are transporting me to some other reality, where I have a life that has some of the same details as my real life, but everything else is almost backwards. I hope that this makes sense. Any thoughts? Well, this night, I had a memory coming up of a parallel lifetime of this one. I was living in a house with my mother, same from this version, and her abusive boyfriend, also the same. But the house, I've never seen before. Well, I had a very small bedroom in it, and a good friend of mine, also in this version, called me. I got outside of the house and was walking outside while talking to him. In the meantime, I heard my mom's boyfriend call me angrily from the house. The next scene, I was back in my bedroom, and my mom was there to say that I had to stay in my bedroom, otherwise I would be killed. And this was because abusive boyfriend was out of his mind. The next scene, I was holding a plastic wash tub in front of me, and the abusive a-hole was kicking it. and it was broken in seconds. I screamed at him that I wasn't afraid of him and that I knew that here was where I was going to die. Like if I was two persons at once. Me comforting myself in this scene that it was okay. He was kicking and stabbing me, and it felt like I fell through a window in some moment. The last scene was me lying down. I couldn't move, but it felt like I was crying. I heard my mom talking in a very unbothered way to her boyfriend. Well, now she's handicapped. It was all traumatic, and I was still trying to guide myself through this. That a-hole was then gone, and I could only look straight, and I could see he was holding a rifle. That was when I knew it was soon over. After this, I woke up, and I was crying over how messed up this was. I haven't slept since, and it's morning now anyways. And yes, this life, my mom and her boyfriend have been the same. Abusive, and my mom taking his side over mine. My mother died in 2018. Her abusive boyfriend is still alive. Obviously, there's no contact. But recently, I saw him at the grocery store again, and I can't describe the feeling I felt. When my real father died, my mom got this new boyfriend 2 years later. The second he set a foot in the doorway, I felt my heart sink to my feet, like you would have if you saw the boogeyman kind of vibes. What I do find fascinating is the last good thing I heard in that parallel version was the voice of my friend on the telephone. And I always thought he had a soothing voice, so that's noteworthy, to say the least. My grandma died in April of 2022. It was really rough for me and actually caused me to relapse for a week after being almost 6 years sober. She was my best friend ever. My true soulmate. We had a connection that was more than just grandmother-granddaughter love. She was the Timothy Mouse to my Dumbo, always guiding me and believing in me. I haven't fully went through the grieving process of losing her because of how I numbed my emotions right after she passed, so I still find myself completely breaking down at random times over her. A few weeks ago, I was missing her bad. For some quick context, my grandma was in the early stages of dementia months prior to her passing, but she passed because she had gotten gout in her knee, and the hospital didn't seem to notice that it had caused an infection until she went septic from it and it entered her brain. They did surgery and removed all the infection, but the damage was done mentally. She then got pneumonia and passed. All of it was super unexpected and traumatic, and I didn't get to visit her before she passed because my family wouldn't help watch my kids for me. I didn't get to go to her funeral because my family didn't want my kids to be there. I'm working on forgiving them, but my heart still breaks when I think about these facts. It wasn't fair. Anyway, a few weeks ago, I was missing her like crazy, crying every day and talking to her non-stop. And then I had a dream. One where she was still alive, but slowly deteriorating due to the dementia. And my grandpa was becoming horribly affected by this. He was crying the whole time in my dream because she finally got to the point where she couldn't recognize him at all. It was awful. I woke up right after she had been admitted to the hospital, and the docs told my grandpa and I that she wasn't going to last very much longer in my dream. And I remember thinking, in my waking state, oh my god, I just had a premonition of Grandma dying. I need to call my dad. And then, slowly, it came back to me that she was already gone. I believe this must have been her showing me how much worse it would have been if she hadn't passed when she did. Or am I just telling myself that to make myself feel better? I don't know. Any advice in this situation would be heard with an open mind. Sorry if this makes little sense, This is the first time I've brought up what happened, and it made me emotional while writing it. Hang on, because the story is kind of long and nearly 40 years back, but I still recall every moment clearly. During the 1980s, I was just out of high school, starting college, and all my friends were hippies or punk rockers, and we all considered ourselves open-minded or alternative, with a spiritual seeker aspect. About 1982, my friends and I were driving home from the San Francisco Bay Area back home to Fairfield, California, and we're in a grassy but desolate green belt of the eastbound Interstate 80, about 10 miles from town. We both saw two individuals in the center median of the nearly empty freeway just reclining at rest on the sloping grass, like in a relaxing nap. They were a man and a woman, both in their early 20s, dressed only in off-white muslin long robes, with rope for a waist belt, and sandals just like ancient monks. Even though we were about in the fast lane, I slowed, and with a quick word to my friend, we agreed to stop and pick them up. The decision was instant, and very compelling. We both avidly practiced hitchhiking in those days as riders or drivers, but the couple had paid no attention to us yet. I stopped my Volkswagen on the left, emergency side of the still quiet highway, and as soon as I did, the man and woman casually got up and approached our car, holding only a bedroll and one canteen. We asked if they wanted to ride with us, and they requested a ride to fill the canteen. They got in the back and were totally quiet, until asked questions. First thing I noticed as an experienced hitchhiker was how totally immaculately clean they both were. Even 1 hour of hitchhiking on an interstate freeway can make you dusty and grimy, and these two were so clean, and they smelled like the ozone from electricity, like an anti-odor that was practically sterilizing the air in my car. When asked, they stated their names were Matthew and Sarah. I asked if those were biblical names, implying born again, and they both nodded deeply to my inflection. I next asked what was their faith, and they replied they were called the Brothers and Sisters of the Road, or Disciples of Christ. Remember I stated, between questions, they both said nothing on their own. In no way did they try to preach to us about anything. I asked more questions, however, such as their purpose. They replied they both had earlier met others who already were just as they were now, and they were crossing all over the country, alone or in pairs, because Jesus Christ was alive, reborn in the flesh in modern America. He was a long-haired, swarthy, olive-skinned carpenter who wandered America in only cutoffs and a t-shirt. He was blessing these traveling monks as they met them to true disciples, under laws of absolute poverty, existing by charity and absolutely no home or possessions, inspiring others to be giving souls, and transforming the whole world one by one through purity and simple faith. I asked if they suffered any hardship or feared robbery or violence. They replied, "A monk's robe with no pockets is an invisible cloak to evil men or thieves. We have nothing to take." With that, we reached my local junior college campus, also nearly deserted in the summer, and said farewell. My friend and I were truly awestruck by this meeting, as the mood and vibe of the two passengers was like no other human beings we had ever met. We told all of our friends, but no one had ever seen or heard of them or any group like that. A year or two later, I was in Michigan driving on a highway beneath a cloverleaf bridge and saw two older ladies in the same robes on the overpass in front of me. I gave a friendly toot as I approached, and they peered down, made eye contact, and gave big waves back to me. All these years, I have asked people and searched online but could find no other witnesses or written evidence of these white-robed travelers, of the highways. So, this took place probably closer to 15 years ago. I'm somebody who struggles with depression, anxiety, as well as insomnia. So that very well could be the reason why any of this took place. I was in desperate need of sleep. I had been up for about 4 days, maybe a little bit more. The only reason I know the story is because my mom asked me what I remembered the following day. When I said that I wasn't sure, she said that I had walked outside the front door of my house and stood on the stoop. Apparently, I had fallen asleep. What I remember was having a very deep and also casual conversation with myself, wearing exactly what I was wearing. The other version of me was in black and white, like an old TV show. At the moment, I was convinced that I was wide awake. I remember it as if it just happened. We talked about the things I was struggling with, such as self-image, acceptance, advice, and friendships. Just two buddies talking. But the weirdest part was I was almost watching it, as if someone else was watching the two of us talk. There was a color version of me as well as a black and white version. The color one looking like everyday real life, and the black and white one looking like something out of an old TV show. What do you think this was? I would be curious as to what anybody has to say. A few months ago, I woke up with the sensation that everything around me was unreal, as if I had entered a parallel universe. While everything appeared the same, interactions with familiar people felt as though they were from a different reality. I kind of just accepted this feeling and thought maybe I just had an intense dream that had me feeling like this, or something like that. Since this happened a few months ago, I still think about it from time to time, and it still feels like a bit that this is a parallel universe, and not the one I originally came from. But it still feels like I don't belong here. I have a peaceful life, and I'm a positive person, so I'm not depressed or anything like that. But this week, when I had a day off work, I had the same experience. Like I switched to a parallel universe again. This time, the feeling was worse than the first time it happened. Everything felt so unreal, and I had a very uneasy feeling in my body. Everything felt wrong, and I had the feeling that I don't belong here. I tried to get these thoughts and feelings away, but I couldn't concentrate, and was shaking a little bit. Everything was the same. My room, my house, my parents, but everything felt wrong at the same time. This has been going on for days now, and every time I think about it, that this is not my universe, I get a very nervous feeling and can't concentrate. Before I fall asleep, my heart races, and my dreams feel more realistic than ever. Like they're not dreams, but real experiences. I can't explain what has happened to me, but I continue to live on despite the persistent feeling that this is not where I belong. Like I switched places with an alternate version of myself from this universe. So that, my friends, was a collection of some parallel universe scary stories. Scary stories about alternate timelines, parallel universes, a specific category of Glitch in the Matrix story, if you want to look at it like that. That also works. Did my voice crack on the first second of this outro? Why did it take me 15 seconds to realize that? Anyways. We're gonna live in a parallel universe where that didn't happen, okay? It did, but it didn't. Stop asking questions. Anyways, yeah, some good stories here. Like I said, this is a subset of Glitch in the Matrix stories, in my opinion. I may be wrong on that. Some of you guys have very strong opinions about what is and isn't a glitch in the Matrix. And that's fine. But yeah, this is a subset of glitch in the Matrix, in my opinion, and I think they're interesting stories. Like I said, parallel universe slips, timeline slips. They kind of go in both directions on that. I've done a lot of stories like this, and they're just, in general, fun, so hopefully you all enjoyed them and this collection. And if you did, well, that's great. Consider hitting the thumbs up button to show YouTube that you liked the video. That helps the algorithm push the video a little harder, a little further, make things a little, better for the channel, and stuff like that. You can also subscribe to the channel if you're new and enjoyed what you heard, as that also helps tremendously. And if you're feeling bold, not bold, just feeling adventurous, go down below the video where the comment section is. Leave me a comment, letting me know your thoughts, how you're doing this weekend, how your day is going, how your life in general is going. How is Parallel Universe you? Or you number 46238? Is he doing okay? Or she? Are they doing okay? Should probably use a gender-neutral pronoun in that statement. Because, yeah. Anyways. Actually, I think a majority of my audience is female. But not all of them. It's like 50-50 kind of-ish. It's more like... I feel like it's 53, 47. Those numbers stick out in my head, but maybe that's wrong. Anyway. Leave a comment if you want to. You can also join Patreon membership to get early access to content like this if you feel like you want to do that. You can also leave a super thanks, which is a tip to the channel, which is never ever expected, but always appreciated. The last thing you can do is enjoy your day. There's nothing else that I request of you. Just have a great day. And until then, until next time, remember you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until next time, my friends, much love. And of course, sleep well.